Welcome back to this week's episode of 10 Forward. I'm your host Mike Overton, and in this week's episode we are delving into Season 2, Episode 3 of Strange New Worlds, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Let's hit it. This episode begins with La'an fulfilling her duties as Chief Security Officer aboard the Enterprise. She's handling minor crew disputes and investigating the vast amount of possessions that Pele has brought along as she joins the crew as Chief Engineer. La'an suspects Pele of theft, but she defends herself, explaining that her belongings reflect a history of enduring hardship. Later, La'an engages in a sparring session with Dr. Umbenga to release her stress. Now, despite appearing fine, the doctor notices her loneliness and encourages her to open up to others, but she dismisses his concern. Whilst walking alone, La'an encounters a man dressed in 21st century attire who collapses and pleads her for help. He reveals a gunshot wound and urges her to prevent an attack in the past, providing her with a temporal device. Now, La'an rushes to the bridge only to find an alternative version of Captain Kirk instead of Captain Pike. Confused, she realizes something is wrong when Captain Kirk displays an uncharacteristic xenophobic attitude towards a Vulcan ship while seeking assistance from the Romulans. La'an privately reveals her alternative timeline origin to Kirk, who remains skeptical but open to the possibility. She believes that her reality has been erased and due to the changes in the past, and explains that this device's role is preserving her memories. Now, La'an insists going back in time to prevent the attack will alter the future. A disagreement erupts between La'an and Kirk, leading to a struggle, and the device ultimately sends them back in time. La'an and Kirk find themselves unable to return to the future at the critical turning point that they are meant to fix. Whilst Kirk wants to find a way back to his ship, La'an understands that they must complete their mission. They discover that they are in Toronto and not New York, and Kirk shares his tragic timeline and the state of Earth. We see that Kirk was born on essentially the USS Iowa rather than being born in the state of Iowa, and that he has never been to Earth. In need of warmer clothes, they visit a store, leading to some comical mishaps, with Kirk not being able to use rotary doors, for example. Now, without money, they create a distraction, and somehow Kirk manages to earn a hell of a lot of money whilst playing chess. I mean, how long was he playing chess for? I have to find out. I mean, it looks like he's earned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So he's either incredibly good at chess and is able to play very, very quickly, or some reason time's a little bit wibbly wobbly in this episode. They investigate the reason for their time travel and discuss their contrasting timelines. An explosion draws them to a familiar incident, and they realise that a bomb that shouldn't exist yet has gone off. To evade officials, they steal a car, with Kirk using a Vulcan nerve pinch, and we also find out that Kirk knows how to make palm soup in a toilet. Interesting fact. And they encounter Zera, who helps them escape. Now, Zera believes the bombings is part of a plot by extremists, and the evidence connects historical disasters to possible alien involvement. A photo of a Romulan shuttlecraft highlights the significance of preventing the destruction of a cold fusion reactor in Toronto to preserve their timelines. One of my favourite parts of this episode, and one of my standout moments, is a scene where Kirk and La'an essentially steal this gorgeous red Dodge Challenger. And Kirk shows his knowledge of certain Vulcan neck pinching techniques, and he also reveals that he had a cellmate in a Denoblian prison, and that he was a Vulcan. Now, something we also find out is that Kirk can make palm soup out of a toilet. Not sure how useful that's going to be as captain of a starship, but hey, it's a skill nonetheless. Another great sort of little hark back to previous episodes of Star Trek is when La'an receives this temporal device. A holographic display appears, and Any keen-eyed among you will notice that as T-cars, or Time Computer Access and Retrieval System, which is the same interface design and the same interface used by the USS Relativity from Star Trek Voyager. It's a nice little touch, and to keep continuity, which I thought was a fantastic idea. It's also nice to see T-cars again. So there are a couple of parts of this episode that I'm not too keen on. Zera has a very strange vibe from the get set, and it kind of almost sets herself up to be a bad guy. We later find out that she's a Romulan, and it's a little bit predictable. We already know that the Romulans are around at this point, as it's been pointed out in earlier parts of the episode. And she just has that kind of almost creepy, weird vibe that you only ever get from a Romulan. So it's just a little bit obvious. What was nice though is when she does finally die, we do get to see some green blood, which is a nice touch. So one of my other favourite moments from this episode is where Laan and Kirk essentially need an engineer, and they need some engineering equipment such as a tricorder. Now, who else better than to help them with this than Pele, the Enterprise's new chief engineering officer? We found out in previous episodes that she's a lanthanite and they live almost indefinitely. So it would make sense that she's living in this period of Earth's history. Lo and behold, they find Pele at the Archaeological Society. Pele at this point has no engineering skills whatsoever, but the entire scene is quite humorous, and there's a couple of hints dropped along the way by Laan to Pele that perhaps she should take up engineering. I love this. It just kind of seeds that thought and, kind of melds Pele into what we see today. I'm glad to see her in this episode. She's definitely my favourite character so far. This installment of Strange New Worlds, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, it delivers an thrilling story that captivates us, the audience, with a nice blend of wit and emotional depth. This, to me, is a standout episode for multiple compelling reasons. It successfully combines the elements of a thrilling time travel narrative and a heart pounding romantic drama. What sets this apart even more is the ability to pay homage to the entire Star Trek franchise, despite being part of a prequel series. This episode feels like a natural culmination of a rich Star Trek legacy, incorporating elements from previous series pretty seamlessly. In essence, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow serves as a kind of beautiful love letter to the franchise. It honours the enduring themes, characters, and storylines that have made Star Trek beloved by fans for many, many, many years. Simultaneously, it stands out as a remarkable standalone story with the context of Strange New World, showcasing its own unique and captivating audiences. By striking this delicate balance between tribute and originality, the episode leaves a lasting impact on us, the viewer, and it demonstrates the exceptional storytelling prowess of Strange New Worlds, whilst invoking a sense of nostalgia and appreciation for the broader Star Trek universe. Thanks everyone for watching this week's episode of 10 Forward. If you'd like to catch up with more Clone Star podcasts, make sure you tune in every Wednesday to the War Room hosted by the incredible Sean Ferrick here on YouTube or on your favourite podcasting platform. Once again, I've been your host, Mike Overton, and I hope you have a great week ahead.